Our guest today is Times rugby writer Alex Lowe. Alex, great to have you here today. Warren Gatland has used the phrase media assassination to describe the current pressure on Stuart Lancaster. Is this correct?
I think assassination is a strong word. I think Stuart Lancaster is under an incredible amount of pressure because the 4-year project which he gave his life to fell horribly short. Warren Gatland, after England had been knocked out, got in touch with Stuart Lancaster to offer him some support and to check his family was okay. And I think there's while an intense rivalry at that level, they also understand what each other's going through. And I think Warren was talking up on behalf of the pressures that Stuart is now under, which are unpleasant for him, but they come with international sport. England have invested millions and millions of pounds in this World Cup project, and it fell horribly short. And Stuart knows that he has to face harsh questions and go through a difficult time, but it's not pleasant for him at all. But it's a part and parcel of international sport if you fall as short as England have.
I mean, the media treatment in general, has it been fair, unfair, on the money? How do you read that one?
I think England think it's been unfair. I think there are lots of elements to it. I think it was the way that England lost has contributed to a lot of it. If England had been knocked out with a last-minute penalty goal or a dropped goal and lost those two games so narrowly, the whole context would have been different. The problem was they were 22-12 up against Wales, blew it in the last 10 minutes, the controversy over the late decision, then they went into the Australia game having to win everything, having to win with so much pressure on, and they were blown away in a way that England teams haven't been blown away under Stuart Lancaster at Twickenham. And so the reaction is, I think it reflects what a lot of people felt out there, which is our job. There was an emotional reaction in the public. I think they felt that England had fallen short. I think that has now come around. We saw in Manchester they got some great support and some sympathetic cheering. But I think that the media reaction has been strong. There are some elements of some of my colleagues who felt from the outset that Stuart Lancaster wasn't the right choice and this would end up how it's ended up. There are others who bought into what he was doing and who kind of began to spot over the last year a few cracks appearing, but sort of stayed with it, I think, believing that because of the path he'd set them on for 3 years, they'd come good. That's why I feel so many journalists predicted England would make the final, because they saw the progress that had been made. They saw England beating Wales, they saw England beating Australia, because they have done at Twickenham in recent years. And so I think the reaction is sort of goes hand in hand with a lot of those emotions and a lot of just the fact that England fell so far short.
And what do you think the fans want from a review of the England team?
The English public want to know who's going to coach the national team, I think, going into the Six Nations and beyond. And the review will... Stuart Lancaster may decide to stand down before the review, or he may decide he has got the stomach for this job. As we speak now, he's got a week off to kind of contemplate that. They want to know if Stuart Lancaster's going to finish the project that he started.
Well, Graham Henry's come out and said that sticking with Stuart Lancaster is a no-brainer. Do you agree with that at all?
It's not the only school of thought, because Jake White won the World Cup in 4 years, 2007, and at the moment the Wallabies look an outstanding prospect to this World Cup, and Michael Cheika has been in charge for less than a year. So it's not the only school of thought, but I can understand where Graham Henry's coming from, because he had the continuity, he kept his coaching team together, he kept the players together, he evolved the team, but he learned the lessons. So I can understand why he sees Stuart Lancaster's the continuity for England as being important.
England are next in action against Scotland in February. Do you imagine the England team to look very different or very similar?
I think the squad will look very similar because they have a core of young players with some experience. Even Nick Easter said he's not going to retire. But the actual team that takes the field could have a few tweaks to it. I would expect George Ford to start. I would expect Henry Slade and Jonathan Joseph to be in the midfield, injuries permitting. So I think there'll be some tweaks from the wider squad in the starting 15, and there will also be an opportunity for the coach to bring in players who have a huge future, who've just been on the fringes so far. And there's no better example of that than Maro Itoje, who was part of England's World Cup training squad, played for the Saxons at the start of the year, and is hugely well respected by the Premiership players, and he's only been a Premiership player for a season. He's a future international for sure.
The World Cup's not over. England are out, but it hasn't finished, and we have 4 great quarterfinals coming up. How do you see those going?
Well, New Zealand-France is a fascinating one for historic reasons, really. 2007, France upset the All Blacks in the quarterfinal in Cardiff. They meet again in the quarterfinal in Cardiff. New Zealand are undercooked in the sense they haven't really had a tough game. France were overpowered and outplayed by Ireland, but they're battle-hardened. So that's a fascinating duel down in Cardiff. I would expect the All Blacks to prevail because I think they've got the experience and the know-how to do it. South Africa, Wales at Twickenham. Wales beat South Africa the last time they played, but the Springboks have got a radically different back line since then. Wales back division's on its last legs. They don't have anyone else to call in really, because they've had so many injuries. It's been brutal for them. That'll be a fantastic occasion. At Twickenham, I think I'd probably go for the Boks right now. They had their kick up the backside against Japan, and they're just going to play very physical, direct rugby. And I think Wales, I'd have been more inclined to back Wales had they not been decimated by injury. Australia are the team who've just come from nowhere really. When they were at Twickenham less than a year ago to play the Barbarians in England, they were a shambles. That the coach had been in charge for a couple of weeks. By then, they'd come off the back of a scandal. They didn't have a pack. That you couldn't see it happening, and Michael Cheika has done an incredible job. So I think Australia are looking like a real force to probably go on and meet Ireland in the semi-finals, and then the winner of that to play the All Blacks, I would have thought.
Imagine you've watched a lot of the games in this World Cup. Who for you has shone as an individual player and as a team?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be at the Brighton Community Stadium for Japan's victory against South Africa, which will just go down as one of the great sporting moments in my book, and I've been fortunate enough to see a lot. But the way they played the game, the way they've played the game through the whole tournament, just with great positivity, great pace, and great balls at the end to go for the line out when they could have accepted a draw, which would have been the greatest result in Japan's history. But they went for the win and they got it, and the outpouring of emotion that day was just magnificent to see, and it really launched the tournament, I think, in my eyes, that win. So Japan have been a great team to watch the whole way through. Australia have really impressed. And individual players, David Pocock, he's an incredible person. He's come back from 2 knee reconstructions to be right at the top of his game at this World Cup. He's been outstanding. England couldn't stop him. England as a team, they couldn't stop him. For me, he's been the outstanding player so far. Japan have just captured everyone's hearts.
Alex, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.